just does not have a clue on how to run an offense. Luke Getsky should be fired. He should be fired today.
I'll stand by you. My God, bro, you got smoke.
Welcome to FaZe Fantasy Live with your host, Lonnie Z.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is FaZe Fantasy Live. I'm your host, Lonnie Z, and along with me today is my partner in crime, Big Jake Hansen. What's going on, Jake? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We are out here grinding it out on a Monday afternoon in beautiful Arizona. It's about 100 degrees today, so it's not even hot. So that's good. We're going to be breaking down tight ends. We're going to give everyone our top 10 tight end list. If you missed it, we just put up the our top 10 wide receivers. We also put up our top 10 running backs. We have our top 10 quarterbacks episode up. And then we're going to give you some draft. We're going to talk a little draft too. But let's just jump right into it, man. Tight ends, they're a premium. Either you have one or you don't. Either you have a stud or you don't even have one and you're just trying to figure it out through some other kind of avenue, through flex or something like that to get those points for a tight end because of the way pro offenses are run. Who do you have at number 10 on your list?
Number 10, I have Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram showed a lot last year. Looked a lot better with the Jaguars from the Giants days. I guess Daniel Jones, he looked a lot better with Trevor Lawrence. A lot better. I'm not going to take nothing away from him. There's not a lot of. Let's say this was a receiver list. Most of these guys would be probably in the 30s. Okay, I'm being honest. So, like when you say top 10 tight ends, it's going to be a little scarce. So I'm Evan Ingram. He's my 10.
I watched this kid in college, and he was such a beast. I just couldn't keep him out of my top 10. And he's got a lot of hype. And I hate that he's got a lot of hype because he's hurt. He's not even playing yet. And he goes against everything I've been saying on the other episodes about Luke Getsky. Brock Bowers, man. If you watch Brock Bowers at Georgia, this dude just is a beast.
He's going to play, though, right? They haven't said that he's not going to play, right?
Yeah,
he's going to play.
Yeah,
correct?
he's going to play. So I'm excited to see. And if he's anything like I think he can be, he should easily make a top 10 tight end list. It can't be that hard to make, right? Sure. So I have him.
And that's going to help everybody out. That's going to help Zamir White out. That's going to help Devontae out. That's going to help everybody out.
For sure. So I have Brock Bowers. He comes in at my number 10. Sight unseen. Haven't seen him in the pros, but I watched a ton of him in college. And this guy's kind of a badass guy. So
he could be the Kincaid Laporta this year for sure.
Yeah. He definitely can. So I got Brock Bowers coming in at number 10. My number 9, it was going to flip-flop. Like I said, I had to squeeze Bowers in there. So Evan turns out to be the one who doesn't make my list. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't keep David Njoku out. He's proven himself. He's proven he's a top 10 tight end. The only knock on this guy is he gets hurt. He gets hurt. And when he's hurt, what are you going to do when this guy's hurt? He was tight end 6 last year. He did play 16 games, 123 targets, 81 receptions. That's why I like this guy. 123 targets and 81 receptions.
Yeah, he looked a lot better last year.
Yeah.
A lot better last year.
And if they can get their quarterback situation squared away, if Deshaun ever becomes Deshaun again or whatever, I think he's, easy to make a top 10 list. I mean, all these guys should make the list no matter what. But I got David Njoku coming in at my number 9.
Tight ends is the hardest position to draft because some people take a chance and they'll get a tight end at 4 or 3rd round or 4th round or 5th round. Sometimes that's not a bad thing because I've did the whole, I'm waiting until I get my quarterback to the 8th round. Then I'm getting my tight end the last couple rounds. That don't work sometimes because then you got a tight end barely scoring 4 points a game, barely 5 points a game. There's probably only 5 to 6 tight ends that's going to score you a consistent maybe 8 to 10 points a game. Everybody else is not. You're gonna get a lucky one, like, oh man, I didn't know what's his name just scored, Juju Jono Smith last year scored 20 points one game. Whoa. Next week you pick him, he scores 2. And then he did it again. Remember? He was doing better than Pitts. I mean, you were talking about this. Like, what is going on? So, my number 9 is David Njoku. Everything you just said, I agree with you. He looked way good, way better with Watson instead of Baker. He looked way better when Watson. And if he doesn't get hurt, that dude is a beast, man. Looking at that guy is like Adonis walking through the locker room. That dude is like, damn, like, dude, you don't get hurt. That dude is going to run you over. Like, that dude is a beast. He's my number 9. He's my number 9. My number 8 is Kyle Pitts. I could have easily went higher, but he hasn't showed anything yet to be a top 5 tight end. I think me and you've been saying it for all last year that he should be a top 5 tight end, but he hasn't had it yet. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. I think it was his coach. I think it was everybody else around him. But yeah, he's my number 8.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts. You're absolutely, when you say it's not his fault, you're absolutely right. I think he has all the talent. He should be even a top 2, 3 tight end, with his skill set. But you're right. He just hasn't had the opportunity. We'll see about this year if he does. I got Jake Ferguson coming in at number 8. And this guy was he was one of the most targeted red zone tight ends in the league last year. And so he finished at tight end 9. He had 71 receptions, 102 targets. That's a lot of targets. It was CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson. That's who Dak was going to. And so, but he only had 5 touchdowns, which is crazy because he was really targeted in the red zone, but he only had 5 touchdowns. So they weren't, completing or connecting a ton. But so he's my number 8, and that's why I have him at the number 8.
Yeah, he was floating around my top 10. He didn't make my top 10. I'll be honest right now. I'll just say it because I'm looking at my top 7 that's left, and there's no way I could have kept these guys out. That's coming up. Ferguson, but he's one of my mentioned guys for sure.
Yeah, and I have a mention that's probably going to be in your top 10 and not in mine. My number 7, and this is going to surprise a lot of people. It might even surprise you, and a lot of people are going to hate me for this. I got Travis Kelce at number 7. I just see a decline in Travis Kelce. I just don't know if he's going to stay healthy all year. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has got to keep going to Kelce because he's the only reliable guy on that team. But I think the decline is going to happen. I think it's going to happen this year. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if we look at Travis Kelce's numbers, he was tied in 3 last year, 93 receptions, 121 targets. So a ton of use. They still use him, but he only had 15 games. So he got hurt. He missed a couple games. That's going to play against him. And he only had 5 touchdowns. Now, you would think that's got to go up. He's got to get more than 5 touchdowns this year. And if he does, then he blows my theory way out of the water. But I have Travis Kelce with a steep decline this year coming in at number 7.
Yeah, guys, we're doing top fantasy tight ends for points. We're not doing all around player. So, and we're not doing name. We're doing fantasy points. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. If we're doing that, he'd be higher up there,
So my number 7 is your boy. And the only reason I got him 7, he'd probably be my top 3, but he blew his knee out, and I know you're a little skeptical about him, Mr. Hawkinson. I mean, he would have been my top 3 easy. Like my top 3 is like, what the hell? Like, you're gonna be like, what the people are gonna be like, what? But Hawkinson, no, I mean, no. To be honest, like Hawkinson should be our top 3, and he still might be your top 3, Lonnie. He's not mine because his injury, and I know you even said something earlier today that you are even worried about Hawkinson, but because of injuries and all that, he's my number 7, easily top 3, easily. I
Yeah,
love that
TJ,
dude. That dude could be the best tight end in the league if he wasn't hurt. To be honest,
for sure. And I love TJ Hawkinson.
Uh-huh.
He is like Yeah, yeah. I have nothing bad to say about him, but I am concerned. Even though he's ahead of schedule, I'm not sure if he's going to get. The last report I read on him was he probably won't be ready for week 1, and then it said, and he possibly could miss 3 to 7 games, not weeks, 3 to 7 games before he comes back. That's why he didn't make my top 10 list, because if he doesn't get back on the field before week 3 or week 4, it's going to be real hard. Well, I don't know, man. It is tight ends, right? He still could get in that top 10 list. I definitely would take him and put him on my IR. I definitely would do that if I can get him cheap. But yeah, I'm not mad at you for putting him in your top 10. He's like you said, all the reasons you said, he's a stud. He's just definitely a stud. Who do you got at number 6?
Number 6, Mark Andrews. It's just the tide of the young, man. The guys are, the youngsters. I mean, I have one older guy up there kind of still, but until he doesn't do nothing. But Andrews injuries, I think having a Henry's going to help him out a lot. Having no receivers is going to help him out a lot. They only have Flowers, so having just Flowers and him is going to help him. If he's healthy, Andrews is the beast.
Yeah.
There's no
Oh,
issue.
yeah.
Like there's nothing there.
Yep.
There's nothing
No
bad. But I
decline.
just think there's guys ahead of him. Yeah, he's just declined a little bit on these youngsters that probably going to score more fantasy points than him this year. But I have Andrews at number 6. Nothing wrong with it.
No, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah, he can decline. The scheme could change things. The one reason he's a little higher on my list is because who else is, Zay Flowers. That's about it.
Exactly.
Who else are they going to throw to when they throw?
It's just more. It's just more of a injury thing. If Andrews didn't get hurt last year, him and Hawkinson would be top 5, top 4. Hawkinson's hurt, and Andrews was hurt all year last year. Like pretty much, it seemed like it. Andrews only had 544 yards last year. That's it. 46 receptions. So
yeah, he only played 10 games. So yeah, that's almost half the season. He missed 7 games. That's a lot of time out. So my number 6 is the only real consistent target for Josh Allen is going to be Dalton Kincaid. And I have to think that they drafted Kincaid to get him in the offense, to get him balls. And I think when we were talking about quarterbacks on that show, I had mentioned something about when the new offensive coordinator for the Bills came, Joe Brady, the tight end play diminished. And so is he going to, incorporate tight ends this year in his offense like that? I don't think you drafted this guy where they drafted him to just let him be a blocking tight end. Way too talented, kind of like Brock Bowers. And I think Kincaid showed enough last year. And I think that he's the one guy. He finished tied in 11 last year. He still had 73 receptions, 91 targets as a rookie. That's pretty good. But his problem was he only had 2 touchdowns. If they can find a way to get him in the end zone, he could be a top 5 tight end this year. I have him at number 6 though.
Pretty much everything with Kincaid, everything's up. Like I don't see him going down. I see everything going up, and I see him having 1,000 yards. Like I have him coming up on my list, so I see him as 1,000-yard tight end.
My number 5 is George Kittle. I think George is still top 5. I mean, he could easily, depend on how the season goes and how Shanahan wants to use him, because he has these. I mean, Kittle could win your weekend easy. 40-point game, 35-point game. I mean, he's that dynamic still. And in that offense,
he still had 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah, it all depends on how they want to just use him for that game plan that week.
Exactly.
Because when they go tight end heavy, he's winning that weekend for you. So I still respect that. George Kittle's still a beast, and in that offensive scheme, I don't think he's losing a step or anything. To me, he's still a bona fide top 5. And I'll say that the same I say with anything else. These top 5, you could kind of mix and match them depending on injury or whatever, any of these guys. So I have Kittle coming in at my number 5. Who do you got?
My number 5 is Travis Kelce.
We weren't too far off, man. I mean, I had Kelce at 7. You got him at 5. We're not that far off.
No, I have Kelce at I had Kelce at 5. I flipped him around with a couple guys. I pretty much got the youngsters above him. I do have Kittle on my list, and he's still above of Kelce, just because Kittle had 1,000 yards, and Kittle's a big play for Purdy, but Kelce, same thing. He's big in the playoffs. Really wasn't big in the season. Honestly, like, he was big in the playoffs, but wasn't really big for our fantasy points. He was under 900 yards last year, so he only had 5 touchdowns. So nothing wrong with it. I mean, he's my number
Yeah.
5, so
Yeah, no, I
that's what I
agree.
got.
I agree with you on that. What about your number 4? Who do you got number 4? Dalton
Number
Kincaid.
4, Dalton Kincaid. Just like you said, there's nowhere to go but up. There's nowhere to go but up. You lost your best receiver. You have a rookie receiver coming in. You have a couple third receivers, like Scantlin and Samuel now. They're trying to be number 1s and 2s. I think Kincaid is their number 1 receiver on the Buffalo Bills, and I think he is going to get over 1,000 yards this year.
And I think Scantling just got hurt.
He just got
Yeah,
hurt.
I don't know. I don't know if
Scantling
he's going
just
to
got
be
hurt.
out for any significant time or not, but I know he just got injured. My number 4 is because I think it's time. I think it's finally his time. I think they finally got the offense, the priorities straight in their offense. And if they'd run any kind of a traditional offense with Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts should finally get into that top 5 conversation. This is not a hard list to, ascend in. If you're talented, if you're good, there's not too many great tight ends out. It's not like the receiver room where that's packed with these studs, and even running backs, but this you should, and with his skill set, I had to put him in there. I'm, and it's nothing he's done in the past to make me say he should be 4 now, because he hasn't done enough in the past for me to say he's 4 now. But I just think that it's his time, and he does have the skill set and the talent, along with Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Algier, and that Kirk Cousins
Kirk
makes the
Cousins
difference. So
or Penix,
yeah,
but we'll
yeah,
see about that.
I'm not too high on Penix, man.
No, but I think he's better than Ritter, though. We'll see.
Well, yeah, probably. I probably. Yeah. So I had Kyle Pitts at my number 4. My number 3 is Mark Andrews. So we flipped a couple. I think he still has enough in the tank. I think if he's healthy this year, they establish that running game. And like I said, and this is why Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, it's probably going to be Mark Andrews in the passing game, then Zay Flowers, and they're just going to be handing it off left, handing it off right, and Lamar's going to run, too. So I think Andrews gets his swag back. I think he's still very, very talented and young enough. He's still young enough to be in that my top 3 as a fantasy producer. As long as he can stay healthy, stay on the field. I got Andrews at number 3. Who do you got at number 3? I know what you feel about Andrews. You can elaborate again though.
Yeah, no, I've got nothing bad bad to say about him. I mean, it's just about injuries. My number 3, I could have easily had him as my number 1. I could easily had him as my number 2. Probably not my number 1. I got 2 youngsters above him now. He's getting a little old in the tooth, but he still scored. He still had better stats than these 2 guys that I had at number 1 too. So I got Kittle at number 3. I think that's Purdy's main guy with Ayuk. If Ayuk's not there, Niners are really going to have a hard time. So the Kittle is number 3 for me. Just hopefully, just keep playing the way he is. He's been banged up here and there. I think he missed 2 games last year, 1 or 2. So we'll see what's up. But it was hard for me to even put him at 3. But just got to see what happens with Ayuk. I think that's the biggest thing right now.
Yeah, Kittle, he still had 90 targets, 65 receptions, 16. He played 16 games, 203 fantasy points. Yeah, very justifiable as a top 3 tight end. He easily could do that, And like I said, the only thing is it just depends on when they're scheming him up, what the game plan is. But he's definitely dynamic. Yeah, I have no problem with Kittle. Who's your number 2?
Trey McBride.
Trey McBride.
The kid, I mean, that dude showed a lot last year and the year before. But last year with Kyler, it's hard for me to say it, but I think Trey McBride is going to be a top tight end this year or next year. He could even be number 1. with yardage wise. He only had 800, I think, last year, right? 800 yards.
Yeah.
I think it was 800.
Yeah. Trey Mc
825, 3 touchdowns. I think you're going to see a lot more with him this year, because I think if Kyler Murray wants to show his old self, he has to give the ball to Trey McBride. Trey McBride's. I know everybody says Marvin Harrison Jr., but Trey McBride is going to be his number one receiver. He was last year. It's going to be this year, and that's going to make Marvin Harrison better. Being a rookie coming in, I mean, dude, he was throwing Trey McBride the ball like 10 to 15 times every game, like every game when Kyler came back. So Trey McBride's my number two.
Trey McBride, that's my number 2. Trey McBride. For all the reasons you said, I expect this is his breakout. When I look at his stats, you're absolutely right. The 3 touchdowns, that's gonna increase this year. That is definitely gonna get better. The 3 touchdowns. He had 81 receptions, 106 targets. They're getting him. He's 100% involved in everything they're doing in Arizona, and I think they're going to build on that. And you're right, it's going to help Harrison. It's going to help Connor.
It's going to help
If
Kyler.
Connor's not on the field, it's going to definitely help Kyler. It'll help the kid Trey Benson out of the backfield if he gets an opportunity. If they run through that tight end, that offense could really roll, and they could win some games, man. Defense, they're going to have to sure it up, but they can compete with that offense, But yeah, Trey McBride is definitely my number 2 also. And my number 1 and your number 1 is obviously, not unless you went rogue on me.
Well, hold on. I got to
and
say something
went to
before you say your number 1.
Dallas Goddard or something.
You left out Hawk? Huh? You left out Hawk. Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
I know. I did. Because
He's hurt,
of what I said, if he doesn't come back till week 7 or
100%,
5 or 6,
100%.
but he still could make this list. You know how hard that was for me to leave my boy out of this
Bro,
top
he was
10?
my number 3.
So,
like
hey,
I put him at number 3 when I first started this list. Be honest, I had Kittle, Kelce, and Hawkinson at 3. Then I sat there and I looked at it, and I looked at more stuff, and I was like, "There's no way, there's no way." So I had to drop Kelce. I dropped those guys. So, but then I looked at the youngsters coming up, because I mean, you can't look at stats, because if you look at stats, it's Kittle, it's Kelce, it's Hawkinson and all that from last year. If you look at stats, but you can't. You have to look and see what's going to happen this year, and that's what we did.
you do. And you know what, bro? That's what people who play fantasy football need to really learn. This is a tough lesson to learn. Get off the name. We want to hold on to these names. Guys who either are injured or are about to have a decline, or we're just holding on to the name. Oh, Devontae Adams. Well, that's a good name to hold on to, but he should start declining this year. He should, but we love to hold on to those names. And if tight ends, you don't got nothing else but the name sometimes, to hold on to.
True.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. Sam Laporta, number 1 tight end. He stays on the field. The way they scheme him up, they figure out a way to get him touchdowns is what they do. He's got 10 touchdowns. His stats aren't the greatest. They're comparably 120 targets, 86 receptions. That's kind of average with all these tight ends, right? But the touchdowns, where they find him, they scheme plays up for him, not only in the red zone, but just in general to get him into the end zone. So because of that, 239 fantasy points last year. Evan Ingram was second in fantasy points with 230.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I had to keep him in, and that's why I had to keep Ingram in my top 10. I couldn't keep him out. And then because I look back at Laporta, because you go down and they show stats, and I looked at Laporta, I was like, well, Laporta had 10 touchdowns, 800 yards. But Laporta missed, I think.
Yeah, he had 17 games, and maybe one he went out early. He may have went out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he missed one game.
Yeah.
One he was hurt. Remember, he went out hurt. Yeah, he did. He went out hurt. So I look at that and I went back at it, and it's like, who's going to do good this year? And it's like Laporta and like McBride is probably my best tight end this year. I honestly think. But guess what? McBride's not going to go first round, because you know why? Because Kelce's name. No tight end should go first round. But top 3, 4 rounds, it's because Kelce's name, Kittle's name, Mark Andrews is going to go in front of those guys. Hawkinson healthy. Hawkinson should, but Hawkinson's going to be hurt. So
And Laporta will now. He finally, I think, got that kind of, But yeah, I'm looking to take Trey McBride in. He might not be there, but my fourth round, if I can get him in there. I don't know if I can. He might be gone. The way my draft goes, if I have to take him at the 2-3 turn, depending on what has fallen to me, if I don't feel real comfortable with either a second or third running back or a second or third wide receiver at that turn into 3, I may take a tight end there like a Trey McBride and get me a stud there because I'm
see, sometimes you have to do that strategy. Yep, and sometimes you have to do that strategy. You could say that. You could say, you know what, I'm going to get Laporta at 4, and I have a receiver that I know is going to be there at 7, and I have a feeling about him, and he's not going to go off. But like, okay, like Pittman Jr., Olave, Cooper Cup, they're all going to be gone
yeah,
in the top 6 rounds,
100%.
7 rounds. They're going to be gone. But there's other guys like Neighbors might still be there in the 7th, 8th. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to go quick because his name. Honest truth. Like a lot of analysts, a lot of people have Neighbors better than Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of people said Neighbors was better than Marvin Harrison Jr. in college, and he was. I mean, stats wise, he was. I mean, the way you watch him, Neighbors is a freak. But Neighbors get drafted early. Look who his quarterback is, Daniel Jones. Come on, man. I mean, so if you look at that, Neighbors will go in the 7th round, but you could pick Laporta and say, okay, I'm going to drop talent on a receiver because I'm getting the best tight end.
Yeah. And another receiver that I didn't even mention, because to follow that analogy, is Rome. Rome's going to be he's going to be a good wide receiver. He's going to have a good rookie year, man. Even with even with all those other receivers there, I think that him and Caleb, and DJ, I think him and Caleb though are going to have a rapport because they both come in as rookies, and I think that there's going to be something special there. But yeah, so there is your top 10 list. Now, tight end list. If there's any honorable mentions at all,
I got 3. I'll just throw them out. I got Schultz, I got Cole Kmet, and I got Ferguson. Ferguson was on your top 10. I think Ferguson took Hawkinson's spot on your. So if Hawkinson wasn't hurt, then Ferguson would not have been on your list because we had the exactly same guys on the list other than Hawkinson and Ferguson. Correct?
And Evan Ingram.
And even, you didn't have Ingram. That's who I had there. And then my fade, Dallas Goedert. I think it's just his time's over.
My honorable mentions would have been Evan Ingram for sure. Could easily made the list and probably going to end up a top 5. Make me look stupid for not having him. I feel like an idiot for not having him on my. Oh, God help me, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr. Anyway, Cole Kmet is also an honorable mention, and Dalton Schultz for sure. And I would fade Dallas Goedert. I'm fading him all day, all night. But yeah, so there are your top 10 tight ends for the 2024 fantasy football season. Hopefully you got something out of it. Remember, coming into the 3rd and 4th rounds, they're going to start really taking your tight ends. So if you have an opportunity to grab one of these studs, or maybe even at the end of the 2nd, sometimes it may be worth it. That all depends on your draft. Your draft room better than we do. We can only speak from experience. But when I'm drafting, I'm trying to get an elite tight end if I possibly can. I'm Lonnie. He is Jake. We'll catch you on the next one.